Hi everyone. Today we're talking with Mathias Durand. He is a public speaking and soft skills coach and the head of curation of TEDxUNYP. We will be talking a lot about public speaking, communications skills, the intersection between sales and communication, and learning as well for sales and for other topics, right? So, welcome, Matthias. How are you doing?
Oh, good. Hi, Ricardo. Thank you for having me. Excited.
Sounds good. So, Matthias, I know based on your LinkedIn, you have multiple kind of multidisciplinary skills,
Mhm.
right? You have been working in different type of companies, and yeah, but you have in the center there public speaking and communication. So, how does it start for you? When did you start to go into that direction of helping
Mhm.
people to improve their communication skills?
Yeah, I think it all started when I worked in sales. When I moved to Prague 9 years ago, I worked in sales. I really loved it. And then after 6 months, I got promoted as a sales coach in the same company. So I had to really think about how can I help my colleagues to get better? How can I deliver feedback? How I can deliver great workshops for the newcomers and really, really learn everything about this as much as I can. And this is how I really started to help people, to coach people. And because I was working in sales, I was working in communication, right? It's really how to address a message to someone, how to ask the right questions, but also my own communication skills because I had to communicate with the people that I was coaching. So I had to really adapt the way I was communicating to the different people. People have different needs and expectation in terms of communication. So I would say that that's really what drove me to improve my communication skills. And the last thing I would say is I've played basketball and now I'm a basketball coach. So team sport also pushes you to try as much as you can to communicate the right way.
Mhm. Good. So I assume you have a lot of learnings out of that experience as a basketball coach as well. And so, and yeah, so you are originally from France, right? So,
Mhm.
and how did you arrive to the Czech Republic? What is the story behind that? If we can
Yeah,
touch a
it's
bit about that personal
it,
story.
yeah, for sure, for sure. It's quite of a funny story because with two friends of mine, we wanted to go on holidays and we picked the cheapest tickets totally like randomly, and it was Prague. So we came here on holidays. We had a lot of fun, and during my holidays, I met a former basketball teammate from France who was already living in Prague, and he was basically telling me that Prague is a wonderful city, was having a lot of fun, and the company I was working for was looking for French people. And back then, I was really considering moving abroad. So I had this interview with his boss, and then his boss actually told me to join 2 weeks later. So it was a very quick decision, and this is how it all started. I had a 1 year contract, but as I said earlier, I got promoted quite quickly, and I really loved um, Prague and my personal and professional development. So like 1 year contract became almost a 9 year experience. I haven't lived here for 9 years. I moved around, but I would say that like 80% of my time in the past 9 years have been spent in Prague. So this is how it all started. It was kind of a coincidence, I would say.
Mhm. Good. And what do you love most of Prague these days? So apart from the cold weather now.
Yeah, the cold weather, the snow. I love Prague. It's beautiful. It's safe. I found that you can get a great quality of life in Prague. It's very accessible. Um, I really like that. I really like that. I feel great here. I
Good.
don't speak Czech, and I would probably won't speak Czech because it's a very complicated, very tough language to learn. I tried. I will try again later on. It's a tough language, really. But the city of Prague is beautiful.
Good. And I assume in that process that you were, of course, part of the Prague community, you started to get involved with TEDxUNYP. Now,
Mhm.
like I know that first you were a speaker in one of the events. I actually saw part of your video when you were with your hands talking together, so that was a bit funny. Yeah. So yeah, can you comment on that? How your experience with
Yeah.
TEDx start and yeah.
Yeah, so I had the chance to be a speaker for TEDx when I was training the management team of the University of New York in Prague, so UNIP, right? I was delivering some workshops about communication, about leadership, and so on. And one of the participants is Mark. And Mark is the organizer of the TEDx unit.
Mm.
At some point, he wrote me an email, and I still remember that day. I was really surprised, and he wrote me an email saying that he really likes my style and my story, and he thinks that I could be a great speaker for his event. I never imagined that I had a chance to be a TEDx speaker one day. So that was an amazing opportunity. It was right before the COVID. So then, COVID hits. The conference has been postponed many times. And I think it was like 1 or 2 years later, we had a chance to actually deliver the TEDx. So yeah, this is how it started. Like he asked me to join to be a guest speaker. I didn't have to apply, and then I was like, okay, that's that's a big moment. So preparation was very difficult, very stressful, but at the end, it's one of my best memory ever. It was really amazing. I know I made that silly thing of speaking with my hands. I was trying to make a point, but what I loved about this is the reaction of the audience. They laughed at my silly jokes, and that gave me a lot of energy. That's a great memory.
Yeah, yeah, it looks good, and of course you can notice the reaction of people loving it,
Hmm.
and yeah,
Hmm.
good. Yeah, and then after maybe your speaking engagement with TEDx, so you started collaborating then now with them as a head of a curation.
Hmm.
So, what does it mean to be a head of curation?
Hmm.
And yeah, what is your experience till now into that role?
Yeah. So it means selecting the new guest speakers for the conference. So, like spending
Mhm.
time to run through the applications, listen to people's stories and ideas, and trying to get a feeling of how this person will be on stage based on the way they communicate and the way they articulate their ideas. And then once we have made the selection, and I say we because I'm working on it with Amit, the co-organizer. So shout out
Mhm.
to Amit if he's watching. So we make the selection of the guest speakers, and then we coach them. It's a lot of coaching for the TEDxUNYP. So we help them build their structure, the idea, the stories behind their talk, and then we help them designing the slide deck and just like rehearsing a lot, giving a lot of feedback. It's a lot of coaching there.
Okay, sounds good. And what has been maybe the most proud moment for you till now into that role, or even before
Mm-hmm.
in other parts of coaching as public speaking?
Yeah, for the TEDx, I think that like because you attend in the conference, so you see what's happening on stage, and you don't necessarily know what happened throughout the journey of coaching and helping someone to get to the level of confidence that is needed to go on stage in front of 500 people, and also all the work that we have done to really help them build and shape their talk. So when I see them on stage uh, delivering a great talk, having fun, and when I see the audience reacting and appreciating the talk, and then some of them are reaching out to them after at the end of the conference, and they have a chat with them and they say, "Hey, thank you so much. Your talk was great." That moment when I see the guest speakers having a lot of fun and having a great moment, and see when they can see the impact of their talk to people, this is something that I'm really proud of. Like giving them a chance, like trying to contribute as much as I can to build a memory they will remember forever. This is really beautiful, and I think that overall, um, when I coach someone and this person is very thankful, and sometimes it happens like months or years after, like, hey, like we worked together in this company, you were coaching me, and it helped me a lot to grow and improve and see things a bit differently. That's an amazing feedback. This is really really rewarding. So I don't necessarily have a very specific example, but I can precisely describe the kind of feeling that I have when people are thankful and when I see the improvement of the people that I coach, for sure.
Mhm. Good. And now, flipping the coin a bit. So, what has been the most challenging times in that process of teaching people
Hmm.
in their TEDx or in other experiences of communication?
Yeah. I think overall the challenging part of it is finding a way to really connect with the people that I coach. Like I'm saying that sometimes it's natural, sometimes it goes very quickly, and sometimes I can see that it takes more time and effort to get the message across, and to because it has to come from them as well. As a coach, you don't say, hey, that's what you need to do. You need to trust me, just do it, right? So like you need
Mm.
people to really be engaged into it. You need people to believe in that, and it takes some time and effort to find the right angle, to find the right way to communicate with them. So that's sometimes challenging. For the TEDx, what is challenging sometimes is when a guest speaker is, well, they're all extremely passionate about the topic they want to cover, of course. Some of them are struggling to understand that they are describing too many things in the talk, and that people will not remember. And because they're very passionate about this and they have done and accomplished a lot of things, they want to, it's very heavy in content.
Mm.
And the challenge is to make them understand that, this is great and you're right, everything is super interesting, but people will not remember that because it's just too much. So let's try to narrow down the focus on the goal you have and the key message you want to deliver. And that part of the coaching journey is sometimes challenging with people, right? But that's all. That's all right. So this is nothing bad. I never had any bad experience with coaching. I never had someone say, I don't want to, I don't want to be coached. I disagree with you. I hate you. We never had any bad stories to share. It's just, for some people, it takes more time and more effort.
Got it, got it. Yeah, I assume it's, well, of course, it varies depending on personalities, expectations of the relationship, and different variables,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think if I think of another experience outside of TEDx, it's when people don't want to be coached, right? So when I work for a company as a sales enablement manager or in learning and development, and the company and the leaders are asking me to build a learning program, but some people don't want to spend time in learning. Sometimes they just don't want to. This is the most challenging part. So the company wants me to train people to really help them grow. But some of those people, they don't want to. They don't want to spend their time there. They don't appreciate the context and the environment of learning. So that's sometimes very challenging. And but I find it very interesting because basically I need to build an environment where people feel comfortable to learn and also safe to share their ideas, and like getting at some point try to get excited to learn something that would be helpful for them. So it's challenging, it's exciting at the same time.
Mhm. Got it, got it. And you mentioned on these challenges, so what are maybe the values that you are trying to keep while even having these challenges? What are the key values that you need to have to keep these positions as a coach and try to succeed with your learnings, right, or with whatever you are
uh,
teaching?
I think it's about having an open mind to always learn something from every interaction and every situation I'm in as a coach or as a trainer. I learn a lot. Maybe I learn more than I, I teach actually. So I think it's really about um, just being present with an open mind to learn a lot from every interaction, and therefore there is no failure. It's there is always a lesson. There is always something to learn. So uh, when I'm in that mindset, in that headspace, then anything can happen. I would try to adapt. I would try to learn from it, and then it becomes an exciting process, right? So we call it like growth mindset, right? I know like it's a
Mhm.
very trendy word, but it's so true. Like being able to adapt and focus on progress and effort, like accepting that it's not necessarily going to happen exactly the way you thought. Like every interaction is a different journey, a different story. Right? So I think it's important to get to keep that mindset to enjoy the process.
Okay. Mm, do you have any, or what is your experience, because you're talking about your role as a sales enablement manager, right? And
Mhm.
maybe some of the team members are not willing to spend time in learning. So
Mhm.
what is your experience into kind of helping them to understand to go into this growth mindset, or
Mhm.
it's a matter of giving them some free time to learn in the day, or it's a matter of, yeah, how to structure this in the real life of in their day-to-day work
Yeah.
week, right?
So to take that concrete example, I would say that when someone doesn't want to be part of a learning program or they don't want to learn, well, actually, they want to learn. It's just like they have a misconception of how the learning experience will take place, right? They have been to boring trainings before, probably, or they had a bad experience with a teacher in the past, probably.
Mm,
So it's not going to be about, hey, you should attend this because the company wants it. It's about what are you trying to achieve? What is missing on your side to reach your goals or your target if we're talking about the sales environment, or you as a person, like what are the things you want to learn and improve, like how can I help you? So very like changing the position into someone who wants to be helpful, someone who wants to help their own development. So basically they need to see and hear and feel that there is value for them, right? Is a way. It's important because then I need to adapt my language to different people because I have to match their needs. So I would say that's that's important. That's the most important thing in that case, in that kind of scenario.
mm, got it, got it. Yeah, now maybe doing a shift of topic and going more
Yeah.
deep into communication and
Hmm.
your advice into it. So maybe we can start defining, based on your point of view, of course, what does it mean for you to be a great communicator at this stage, based on your experience.
Being a good communicator, in my opinion, is uh, being able to adapt your communication to your audience. It's really about the audience, it's about who you're speaking to. So being a good communicator is not necessarily the skill of articulating your idea and be persuasive by pitching you an idea, and then you'll be like, oh my god, I love it, I just want to do it, right? Of course it's part of the process, but it's not the first thing, it's not the most important thing. I think that a good communicator is someone who is able to listen, to ask the right questions, and to be able to put themselves in the shoes of the audience. I think that's the most important thing. And based on that, you can adapt the way you communicate. You like, if I understand what really matters to you, what you need, what you love, what you hate, or the direction you want to take, then I can adapt the way I communicate to you, because what I need to say needs to resonate to you, right? So I think the first thing is to really care about people, to listen actively, to really care about them with the intention to deliver something that has value to them. My goal is to find a way to help you, and that can help me to become a good communicator if I have this mindset.
Mhm. And yeah, I think we are in general talking that this doesn't not only apply just to talking, but also maybe to
Mhm.
writing, or all the different distribution channels that we can
Yeah.
have, right? Because
Yeah.
um, mm, yeah, it's more about not to be, yeah, putting more or less in a, maybe an analogy, putting in the shoes of the other side, and then try to
Mhm.
see, okay, how should you deliver the message in a way that
Yeah.
it brings value to them, right?
I think that's it. It's like everything. When I coach people on the TEDx, or when I coach, when I train companies on public speaking skills and storytelling, the first thing we do is to think about the audience. And this is a mistake that a lot of people do. It's like they are going to be obsessed or focused on the content they're going to deliver, when in fact the first step is to think about the audience. Who is going to receive the message? What do they need? What are the value drivers to them? Meaning, what really drives value and interest in their eyes? And that should be the foundation of our communication skill. It's like everything needs to serve that purpose. We need to
Mhm.
serve a message to the audience.
Okay, if we can talk about the two contexts that we are using. Let's say in the context of a company and in the context of a TEDx, I assume is different in those
Mhm.
sides, because let's say in the company, in theory, the companies know what is their ideal customer profile, and they have
Mhm.
some background towards to whom they are communicating, right? Although maybe some companies don't even have this, but okay, let's say they have it, right? And then you have the tech X, where it's more, yeah, it depends on who is gonna be attracted to the entire subject of the text.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yep.
can you tell us a bit, how do you start that process of
Mhm.
improving the communications for in both scenarios, let's
Yeah,
say?
yeah, that's a great question. Both scenarios are very different. So in a company in sales, we talk about personas. Okay, so we need to sell to, I don't know, three different types of people in companies: exec, managers, directors, like whatever it is. So you want to be as specific as you want, and then for each position of your persona, you can understand what's important to them. You can even study what they go through in their position. You look at job offers on LinkedIn, and then you know exactly what kind of role, what they're looking for each role. So for sales, it's personas, right? For TEDx, it's more challenging because we don't know who's in the audience. So the whole point is, how can I connect with the audience? How can I gradually make them understand why it's important that they attend my talk? So we need to go through some basics and through some very simple things. I'm going to give you an example. We had this speaker last year, Alessia. She was talking about technologies coming from space, right? So the space technologies that we are using in our daily life, right? And basically we are all space users in a way that a lot of things we're using in our daily life is coming from technology developed for space, the space industry, okay, and space exploration, for example. And so, how can we connect with the audience? In the audience, there are probably not 500 experts in the space industry. So we need to go back to the level of the audience. And we were telling a story of someone waking up one day and doing all the things that everybody's doing, right? And just pointing out on the fact that most of the things this person has been doing during the day is connected with a technology coming from space, right? And so we try to connect with the audience very, very simply, like, hey, raise your hand if you have used GPS or Google Map to attend the conference, right? Everybody raise their hand. So this is how we connect with them. So we try to really think about how it can resonate with them and what is the most simple thing, the most simple way to get them gradually towards us, right? So that's just an example here.
Mhm. Got it, got it. Maybe if imagine let's put in the shoes of the people listening to this podcast, and I assume all of them are related to building companies, or even managing companies, or yeah, or are part of a team, right?
Mm-hmm.
In a company, right? So typically private companies, let's say, they are focusing in their bottom line, and of course having some mission and vision, right? So
Mm-hmm.
um, how can we, yeah, imagine they need to do presentations in Excel, or PowerPoint or whatever, and of course from time to time do some conversation and
Yep.
presentation to the, or of course even written way. So yeah, what are the main tips that maybe you can give them towards how to improve their communication in the short term? I know it's a really big topic, but
No,
it's
I love
like,
it.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
love it. So again, the audience, for what's the key message you want to deliver, right? Then if you know the audience in that context that you describe, you usually know the audience. So you think of what are the things that matters to them. Is it the kind of audience who needs to identify the challenges they need to face, the solution, or the process, right? You need to think about this. Like, what is going to be the most important thing for them? So what is the thing that I need to emphasize the most? The problems we face, the challenges we face, the solutions we have, the process, or even the results we are looking for, right? So let's say there are four things like that. So once you identify what you believe is the most important to them, everything you put on your presentation, the text, the design, everything you say must serve this purpose. So it's very important to keep that in mind, because very often we prepare a presentation and then we have to remove a lot of content. Okay, like actually it's super relevant, it's super interesting, but it's not aligned with the purpose of this presentation, because we want to show to the audience the kind of results we can get in 6 months by doing the right things. So, right? So then we need to remove a couple of things. And then always keeping in mind that the audience is made of human beings, and human beings make decisions based on emotions most of the time. So they feel something, then they think on it, and then they act on it, right? So everything I do and say and write on the presentation must also respect that process here. So I first want to get an emotional connection with the audience. It doesn't mean that I want to get emotional. It doesn't mean that I want them to be emotional. It's like finding a way to really speak to the emotional part of the brain of my audience first to get their attention, and then I get into some rational stuff. So I love to stay inspired by the Golden Circle by Simon Sinek, which is basically a way to communicate to a very large audience. It's more about marketing or leadership. But when you really think about how this Golden Circle is made, it totally matches with what I just said. Like, you start with the why and the how, because it talks to the emotional side of the brain of the audience, and then you get to the what. So in terms of a presentation, it could be the first part, it can be just one slide, by the way, or just 10 seconds, but it's like, why is it important that we all spend 30 minutes or an hour today on that topic? That we need to find a way to answer to that question. And then it's, how are we going to address the problem we are facing and the challenge we face all together, right? So now why and how is there. Of course, you can spend as much time as you need on that. And then the what is, what are the actions we need to take, or what's the process we need to keep in mind, or what are the key takeaways you need to keep in mind, right? So honestly, it's a very basic thing. This is me trying to make a short answer, by the way. But the Golden Circle is always a good inspiration, because it makes you build a presentation based on how people, therefore your audience, makes decision. So that's, to me, super important.
Okay. Is there, as I in the introduction, you were coaching also about other topics like motivation, empathy, and other, let's call it soft skills. Maybe, maybe first let's define what is for you soft skills, and also, how do these soft skills? I think we have already been talking about this, but maybe we can emphasize it a bit more, like how these soft skills are complementary to the communication, right? How
Yeah.
does it work?
Soft skills are personal skills and interpersonal skills. So the skills you want to develop to become better as a person, but also to interact in a better way with others, right? So, and that's why communication skills are extremely important there, because it's really how to communicate with others, how to listen, how to connect with them, how to collaborate with them. So human collaboration is based on people's ability to grow individually and connect within each other. So that's how I see it. Like, this is a very basic way to define soft skills and the role of communication there.
Got it. And so what has been, at least in your experience with sales and in other areas as well, while coaching, so what do you think is maybe the soft skills that people is lacking more in the context of companies, or
Yeah.
can we walk a little bit about this if it's not too controversial?
Focus. People are struggling to focus a lot. Critical thinking, like making decisions that are not based on gut feeling or perceptions. Those are two soft skills that are becoming critical, I would say. And I obviously I'm a huge believer in always working on the communication skills. That's something that you never stop working on. Like, the way you communicate today is going to change in 10 years. So yeah, but I would say, focus on critical thinking for sure. are extremely important. Like looking at how companies are making decisions sometimes is scary, I would say.
Okay,
But
okay.
yeah, those two skills for sure.
Okay, and if we can go a little bit deeper into this, so what does it? Yeah, of course, we are not all perfect, right? So it's like,
Hmm.
what do you mean when, well, critical thinking and focus? So what are the actions that maybe you would recommend to someone to take to first maybe diagnose if
Yeah.
they are good, or in some
Hmm.
level of classification how well they are in focus and critical thinking, and
Yeah.
maybe what are the actions that maybe you would recommend for someone to do to improve this?
Yeah. So in terms of focus, when you feel distracted and you're struggling to focus for a long time, and you're staring at your phone every 2 minutes, then you probably have a problem with focus.
Yeah.
But you're not the only one. We are a lot of us in this situation, right? It's very tough. There are a lot of techniques to improve the focus. You can listen to Huberman's podcast, and you will learn a lot of things about how to focus. And there are some really like short-term techniques on the way you breathe, on like training your visual focus, staring at something far away and then something close to you. Like those are techniques that can train you to get a better focus. But I would say the first thing would be to also think of when and in which condition I feel the most productive. Like everybody has a different thing, right? So are you more productive for creative tasks in the morning, in the afternoon, like in which place, like what's going on in your mind and so on. So
Mm.
like people will be looking for a shortcut, a quick tip that can have an impact on focus. But I think that there is a lot of other things around that can have an impact on our ability to focus. Like well, now we're opening a box. It's going to take a lot, it's going to take a lot of time, but we can, like
Don't
the
worry,
way,
don't worry.
yeah. I mean, the way you sleep, how often you exercise, do you sometimes meditate? Meditation has a direct impact on your ability to focus, right? So there is a lot of habits, and this is maybe actually, if you would ask me the question again, I would say that the skill of forming habits is maybe the most important one, because it's all the habits you form will have an impact on all the skills you want to develop, all of them. There is not a single there is not a single
Yeah.
skill that is not the result of habits. So the mistake in general, I think the mistake people make is they are looking for a quick tip, trick, a magic trick to overcome a problem in 2 days, when probably going to take more effort and time to form the right habit, to unplug your brain with the wrong habits. Like it's a never ending process. Yeah. And yeah, and critical thinking, I think I would say the same thing. Like it's like educating yourself on how to make better decisions, taking data into consideration, always asking yourself the reason, uh, what's behind, why, like always trying to stay curious and try to understand what's behind something that I read or hear, and don't take uh, people's opinion for granted. Like let's try to, um, just try to dig into what's behind that, like, and try to recognize if it's based on a evaluation, interpretation, or an observation. I think that's the main thing. Like an observation is something that is measurable, right? There is no judgment there. But when you hear someone talking and it sounds like it's an interpretation or an evaluation, then you need to question a little bit more, I would say. My answer went all over the place. I hope it made sense, but you will make some
No,
edits,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. No, don't worry. I will show you exactly like this. So, um, no, but I mean, it's interesting. It's good to discuss this. I actually, based on your answers, of course, I can go in different directions. I think I will try to go step by step, because in my mind I'm trying to keep all the different topics we can go. I will first mention about, yeah, you mentioned about critical thinking, and yeah. Well, you are currently working also in a company called Product Board, right? And
Mhm.
as a sales enablement manager, right? So, and then I was imagining about product management, Product Board, also about this, about that in software development, typically, or in a product, typically, let's say a user just says, "Hey, I need, I don't know, I need X feature," right? But then then you cannot stay with that comment and just run and
Mm-hmm.
code and design it and code it. You should actually go deeper. And actually, I know that there is these techniques of the 5 whys, right? Like just
Mm-hmm.
try to arrive to the root problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was thinking about that maybe that those 5 whys is maybe easy tip to start to do from today
Yep.
about how to approach better decision making and improving critical thinking, right? Because I can
Yeah.
take a decision with the feature, right? Let's say with
Yeah.
just one person telling me out of, let's say, 1,000 users telling me do this, and I just go and run and do it.
Yeah.
But then actually, this wasn't the way to go, right?
That's a great
And
example. I mean, one great thing about product board, and I'm not trying to pitch product board to anyone, but that's just something that I really like is it really helps companies make decisions based on a, a, a big sample of customers. What do they need? Like, I, you would be shocked, but we speak to companies where a leader one day wakes up and say, "Hey, I dreamt about something. I have an idea. We need to build this," right? So it's coming from just an idea of someone, but product board actually helps companies to understand what the people need, what the people want. So it can capture user feedback and insights coming from all over the place. Actually, it's coming from where people are talking about the product, and then they can prioritize what needs to be built next based on what people need, instead of one person having an idea or like a dream or something, right? And that's definitely how to apply critical thinking in product management for sure. Extremely
yeah, yeah.
important.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised of the way to take decisions because I've seen it live for me, like how, like in startups, how the
Mm-hmm.
decision making is taking.
Yeah.
And let's say let's have a meeting, 30 minutes, take a decision and go and do
Yeah.
it. When and maybe this based only on a comment on one customer out of 10 or whatever. Or yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like
Yeah.
um and yeah, or well, I am involved in software development, so I receive
Yeah.
every single day a new feedback. And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
and my feeling, I don't know if it's the expectations of the other people. Is my feeling is that they are just expecting that I will tell them, yeah, I will do a fast and feature for that from tomorrow or whatever,
Yeah.
or because even that I explain multiple times, like, yeah, I get it that that could be a valuable feedback, but we need to first sleep on it and then
Mm-hmm.
do it or analyze it deeper, right? Before.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So
like
yeah, I
it sounds
think this.
like a it's like it sounds like a good idea, but based on what? Right. And when you ask based on what, like sometimes the answer is funny.
Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, another topic that I wanted to talk based on your answers you were mentioning is maybe about the topic of habits, right? Because I feel also that there is a huge problem of, okay, let's say, well, New Year is coming now,
Mm.
and let's say you start, well, or you already are planning the next year or whatever, and then you're just putting these random goals, and then, but you're putting those goals that maybe are too ambitious or whatever, but then you don't really think it from the point of view of daily habits, right? Or and
Yeah.
at least in my experience in companies I've been part, I don't feel like no one is talking about habits. They are just talking about, well, we need to deliver this goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
The end result. Yeah.
I get it. Yes, it's good to have a goal, right? That's a North Star, but okay, what are we gonna do in daily basis to achieve that? How to break down that goal into the daily habit, and then of course evaluate it if those habits can are reasonable, right? Because let's say in sales, you maybe of course I can have a huge goal, and but if the daily action means I need to do 100 calls every day, so maybe that's not realistic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah. Do you
Yeah.
have any experience into this? How to bring goals into daily habits, and that maybe the managers or decision makers are conscious that they need to talk more about habits, and they
Yeah.
because I feel like no one is really focusing into it apart
Yeah.
from discussions of atomic habits or stuff like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're right. But I think you summarized it very well. It's like you have a goal, you have a target, and then exactly as you said, you break it down into small habits, But then there are two things that we need to do. Is one, start small and learn how to form the habit, right? Because basically we can both say that we will run 5 kilometers every day. We will do it tomorrow, probably, right? But very quickly, I'm speaking for myself now, but very quickly, I won't be able to run 5K every day because I'm not doing it at all now. So so you have a target, you have a goal, you break it down into small habits, then it's helping people to form the habits, and that requires patience. And this is a word that a lot of companies don't want to hear, but it takes time to understand what is the best time of the day for me to form the habit, what is the right amount of activities, or how big the habit should be. That's a self assessment, and it takes some time there. And then the other thing that I would say, because you said it from the perspective of a manager, is to reward habits and efforts more than the result. It's like giving recognition to people who are trying to do their habits, like instead of only being obsessed with the results. And right, so in sales, for example, it's extremely important to give recognition to people who are trying to implement I don't know, the new discovery questions we worked on together during the workshop, right? Like, it doesn't mean that you close all the deals, but you're trying to form a new habit, right? Or if, as you said, you gave a great example, like, okay, we need to get there, we need to get those sales, it requires this amount of calls. Someone is, okay, we need to make 100 calls a day, probably, maybe it's too big, so people are not going to make those 100 calls, but who is trying the best? Who's trying the most? This person needs some recognition as well. We need to reward effort in order to really help people feel comfortable with building new habits, because it's very hard. And then that will lead to results at some point, right?
Mhm. Yeah, just talking specifically about companies, right? Like, I am not sure if the structure of a company is completely aligned to that mindset of habits, because
Mm-hmm.
that's where I do see a problem. Because let's say typically a CEO needs to report to a board, and then the CEO just brings a lot of goals, right, for a year or for a quarter or whatever. And then more or less you are kind of attached to those goals of your results, right? Once you promise it to the board, and then okay, what happens if you don't achieve those goals? Then you are fired or whatever, I don't know, right? Or there are some problems or expectations. So that's where I see that there is not that mindset that everything should start more from habits instead of from goals, right? You should, and then kind of the reporting should be more about, yeah, do we build this habit, yes
Mm-hmm.
or no? And if it works towards the goal, yes or no, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then of
Yeah.
course, if the habit didn't work, then adjust the plan, right? Adjust the goal towards, or do some changes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this doesn't mean that the expectations at the end of a quarter is we need to achieve this. If we don't achieve it, we are screwed, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
which of course I understand financially is necessary to achieve certain goals, right? But then the question is how to be more flexible into this mindset. That's my concern into the
Yeah.
model of a company.
So to me, there are three types of people involved there.
Mm.
One, there is the C-level, let's say, of the board. They want to get those results, and that's okay. It's their part of the job. They need to set the goal and the target. Fine. Then we have the managers who needs to really support how their team are going to build their habits. And I think that although we all want to be very transparent, we need to communicate to the teams what is the goal and the expectations from the high level. We also need to adapt our communication skills to the team, right? So to get to that results, we need to develop we need to form those habits, right? They need to, the team needs to really understand from the managers what are the habits they need to form. And then the third person is someone like a sales enablement manager or learning and development specialist, someone who's going to design a learning experience for them to really get to the right habits that will get them to the results. And this is where we've very often, a lot of companies fail with designing a learning experience to their teams. Okay, so the C-level, the board says we need to achieve that number in sales. Okay, so now the manager say we need to achieve that number. This is the target for the team, and this is what we need to do. So they will make a 1-hour presentation with a lot of relevant information. That's the goal. That's the habits. Every day we need to make 100 calls, whatever. We need to ask those questions. We need to overcome objections like this, right? So everything is extremely relevant, but it's not going to help people to learn how to form the new habits. It's just sending a lot of relevant information in their eyes. So that's why we need someone in learning and development or science enablement manager or whatever, someone who's a trainer that will design this learning experience. And when you design a learning experience, I love to use the Kirkpatrick model. So it's like there are 4 levels of learning, or 4 levels of things you can measure in your learning experience. And everything you design must serve the purpose of those 4 levels. The first one is the reaction. So once you design a presentation or a program or training or course, you need to quickly capture the feedback from the learners. It was very engaging, or I didn't really like it. It was boring or whatever. Then the second one is the knowledge. You want to assess their ability to learn the information. So you need to make a quick knowledge quiz, because from the moment you made the presentation with all the information, you need to know what are the things they retain. The third one is the habits. You need to find a way to track the behavior and the habits they're trying to put in place. So when you in sales enablement, we have tools that are helping us to listen to the calls and track keywords and key questions or whatever. So, okay, we have a course or we have a live session and we are going to coach you how to do this and how to do that. Then we're going to measure how often you do it. We're not looking at the result of it. We're just going to look at how it's taking place in the reality. And the fourth level is the performance. What's the impact on the final performance? But the problem is that we're only tracking performance. So we skip step 1, 2, 3. We make a 1-hour presentation, boom, and then we look at the performance and like, all right, it's not going up. It's not going up. What's going on? So it's a process. And then we can also talk about how to build a good learning experience. You need to have active learning. You need to get the people to practice quickly in the process and then give them feedback. There is social learning, which actually makes them express and articulate what they have learned to a group of people. This is also a way to learn more. There is a lot of different techniques and principles in learning. But you see, like it's like C leaders, C-level, they set the goal, managers communicate on that, but then we need to design a learning experience to get there and track how it goes and get the feedback. It's a never-ending process.
Got it. Yeah, it's more an iterative process, and it. Yeah, and what is your experience with this comment that, okay, what happens? Let's say you implemented all these techniques, these 4 levers, right? Yeah. So, what is your experience towards, at least with the companies you have worked with, towards what happens if the goals are not achieved based on the habit? So this is something that the entire company now have already changed the mindset, or you have problems because they are not watching this as an important thing, the learning part and the habit formation?
Yeah, it starts with having a learning culture in the company, like a learning and development culture. That's not always the case, and that's sometimes challenging, right? So a company, ideally for me, obviously as a trainer, I look at how much a company wants to invest into learning. I'm talking about investing money and budget in some tools and people, but also investing time. Like, are we dedicating time to learning? Doesn't always happen, and when it doesn't, I think that it brings a lot of problem and challenges. By saying that, I also fully understand that sometimes companies cannot really afford the budget for that. Like this year and the past one were very challenging years for tech companies. For example, we are still going through an economic crisis where a lot of customers are not renewing the contracts, or when you want to acquire new customers, well, they are freezing the budget and they don't know exactly if they can invest into some new tools, right? So I also fully understand that. right? I'm not blaming people by making that comment. I'm just making an observation.
Mm,
When a company is able to invest into learning by investing money into tool, people, and also time, then it's the best condition to help people grow and train them. When it's not there, it's very hard. And when it's not there, we are looking for like quick results, like one big client that can help us get to the target. But you can find solution in the short term, right? But in the long term, it's harder to grow, I would say.
mm. Got it. Got it. Yeah, now I will switch gears a bit towards,
Yeah.
well, it's a similar topic, right? But it's something that is happening nowadays, right? About AI, for example, and
Mhm.
yeah, who is helping us or a lot in different tasks that maybe before we were just doing manually, right? So do you consider, yeah, how do you consider soft skills as important for this time? And yeah, how can this be complemented with the usage of AI? Or yeah, so can we talk about this,
Yeah.
like, or AI is gonna screw us because we are gonna lose all our jobs and so on? So
Mhm.
yeah, what do you think into this?
I think AI is our best friend. We shouldn't be afraid of that. It's really an awesome tool. Like, uh, imagine, I would love to imagine, like, I want to coach people on public speaking. I I think it would be amazing for someone to get some live sessions with me, but then to build a tool that give them feedback. So, for example, you want to practice a speech. We have some coaching sessions. You understand what needs to be done. We go through it, and then by yourself, you can submit a video of you rehearsing, and AI will tell you, based on the things you are supposed to apply, then you're missing this, you're missing that. You get this feedback, right? That's really awesome. It's
Mhm,
not going to take away my role. Is going to be a complementary tool that can actually help you to gain maybe autonomy and time in some of the things. And then the other thing is the added value of us human beings is the human collaboration. So as long as we are able to work on our human collaboration and build new stuff, AI will be there as a tool for us to go quicker, to scale stuff, and to give people more autonomy in their own development. I would say so. Um, Not afraid. I think it's great. Like it's great to ask AI for some, like, imagine like creating content. You need to work on a topic, and you need to gather information. You need to learn some stuff. Like, you can ask AI to give you some resources or to give you a summary of the things you need to pay attention to. That's really awesome. Like
mm,
instead of making your own, you still need to make your own research and double check a couple of things, but you can learn so much from that. And then building AI tools to help people learn and grow. That's really awesome. It's a great opportunity, I think.
great. And what do you think we as human beings are gonna be more focused in the near future, or more when we have these kind of tools who can help us? Do you think we are gonna still doing this? For example, a common example is writing content, right? Like you kind of
Mhm.
ask the tool, "Hey, I need to write about
Mhm.
these topics for this audience. My point of view is X," right? And then
Mhm.
the tool returns to you with a potential post
Mhm.
about that. Um, do you believe that, yeah, is something that we will continue it, we as a human being, we will take that and then continue iterating and researching deeper into the idea, or it's gonna be more like completely substitute the post writing from our side? Or because I
That's
don't
it.
think it's a good practice for sure to just copy and paste something and just put
Mhm.
it out there, right? Because if not,
Yeah.
the entire ecosystem of content and education will be the same, more or less.
Mhm.
um so yeah,
Yeah.
so how do you feel into that?
Well, well, first of all, everything that AI produces is based on of a prompt written by a human being. So
Mm,
it should reflect somehow what's the intention of the human being behind, right? So in the example you're taking, I can ask AI to write a text about public speaking in a way that sounds like ABC. Like, I'm trying to be as descriptive as I can. So it should reflect the intention of the human being, right? then you basically gain time on that task, for example. And then we need to think about what's the role of the human being in the entire journey or the entire process. Why, if we take that example, so I'm going to use AI to write a LinkedIn post, right? I'm going to do this. It goes fast. It helps me gain visibility and traction. As a human being, I'm the one who needs to connect with the people who seem interested with my LinkedIn post. I'm the one who will need to have a conversation with them and see if I can help them. Like at some point, there is a role for the human being. We need to identify where it is and then leverage the AI tools to go quicker on some tasks, right? And in terms of education, I think at some point, human beings are educating people every day. So yes, you can create, pretty sure, I don't know if you can do it now, but I'm sure like tomorrow you will be able to do it very quickly, an entire educational program or learning program based on AI. And then the question will be, when do I need to interact with my learners? There will be a place, there will be a role, there will be a moment where I need to do something there. So then the human being is there to design and build the entire journey, the entire experience. So I actually feel like it elevates the role of the human being, right? And then think about, when do I need to interact? Like now we're talking about a specific example, right? But I think it elevates the role of the human beings, because the human beings now, the human being has to build stuff and think about the overall journey and program. And then when do I need to use AI? On that step number 3 of the process, and then human interaction, step 4, and then I can create a sequence that combines both. So I think it's a great opportunity.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's, well, even if you use AI, right, when you are talking to the, as you mentioned, with the prompt, you are kind of giving your own point of view. So it doesn't mean
Yeah,
that all the content will be the same, because the way you will talk about public speaking will be from the point of view of sales,
exactly.
maybe, and I will talk about public speaking maybe from the point of view of a software engineer, let's say, just to say something, right?
Exactly.
And that will vary, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think this kind of connect with another topic about authenticity, which
Hmm.
kind of apply to TechX and also in
Yeah.
general in the day-to-day
Yeah.
life of people, right? So yeah, so what does it mean for you, authenticity, and and yeah, how can people start into that process to be more authentic? Because as we are talking about AI and stuff like that, right? So how do we not just take a general point of view of stuff and
Mm.
try to express more our point of views in with our story and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah. Authenticity is everything to me. Like it's extremely important. I'm glad we have a chance to talk about it. So in the context of a TEDx, public speaking, authenticity is key. I think that the mistake would be to pretend to be someone else or to copy. And this is going to be controversial. There is a lot of tips on how to work on your body language on stage, and that makes sense. All right, of course, there are some things you don't want to do. You don't want to you don't want to show your middle finger on stage to the audience. All right, yes, but you don't want to look fake. You don't want to do something. I don't know. Like I personally, I'm really struggling with people being fake on stage, and I have attended some public speaking workshops where the trainer would say, you need to put your arms like this, not like that. You need to use your eyebrows like this, not like that. But that's like so if you really think about it, then you're on stage and you think about this instead of thinking about the message you want to deliver to the audience. So it doesn't make any sense, because the purpose of being on stage is to deliver a message to the audience, not to be careful of the way you are on your body language, right? So that to me is extremely important. And I always, when I coach the people on that, I say like we rehearse, we practice a little bit as a group. I'm just coming back from a 2-day business trip where I was delivering workshop on public speaking, so it's fresh in my mind. Like I made them work on a presentation, then they deliver the presentation, and the rest of the group is giving feedback. And the thing is, like, hey, Martin, you cannot deliver a talk the way Katarina does. You have different style, and that's great. That's fine. Like it's all about building your own style, like taking who you are and and speak with your heart, because basically when you are trying to copy a technique or another style, you're not speaking from your heart anymore. You put a layer on top of it and it doesn't sound authentic at all. So in terms of public speaking, authenticity is key. I speak the way I speak right now on stage. I'm not going to try to pretend like I'm someone else. Like, this is me. You see me on stage, right? So that's important. And then what was the other side of authenticity? How to develop authenticity? What was the other side of the question?
Yeah, how to, let's say today I need to write a message or go and do a presentation. So
Mm-hmm.
how I make sure that what I am writing is having my firm like it's authentic. Like, do you think it's something that we should all have always present? What are our values or something like that? I don't know. I like
Yeah.
or so, yeah.
Okay, I got it. Yeah. So yeah, it starts with working on yourself and defining. That's a lot of work, right? But it starts with defining your own values. What is the value you want to bring to the people when you're in the context of delivering a speech, right? So it starts with who you are, what is important for you, what are the boundaries, what are the things you don't want to do, like learn how to say no, and really stick to who you want to become. And then authenticity is also connected, in my opinion, with change and growth. Like, um, the way I am, the values that I've defined for myself some years ago might change 5 years from now, and that's totally okay as well, right? So um, we want to really embrace change and growth and the path we take. I think that's super important. As long as you stay true to yourself, like you don't have to define who you are now for the next 50 years. It's going to change, and that makes you authentic, because your experiences define who you are today and tomorrow, and it's going to change. You're going to have a different experience. The interaction that I have with you is going to have an impact on the way I think about a lot of things, and that's great.
Mhm.
So I probably sound like I'm going away from the topic, but I feel like it's connected with that as well. Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Now talking about your own learning experiences. So do you follow any specific podcasts or books or yeah, or
Mhm.
any events or other sources that you use for you learning in personal growth, public speaking, or other
Mhm.
areas?
I listen to the Uberman podcast. I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I love the work of Adam Grant. So his books,
Mm-hmm.
his podcasts are always very insightful. Um, I read books every day. Like, I'm currently reading Master of Change. I love it. It's something that resonates a lot. Like, helping people embrace change instead of resisting it. Sometimes I think that's almost like a superpower. That's extremely important. So I like to read. I like to read a lot of books, because it helps me to get deep into a topic instead of watching just a 5-minute video somewhere, right? So. Um, I used to listen to more podcasts. I can give you a list of a lot of podcasts, but I want to mention Huberman and Adam Grant. I think they're doing a great job there. Yeah, and then yeah, I can give you a list of I can mention a couple of books that influenced me a lot, that I believe are important as well. Yeah.
Yeah, would you like to mention them now, or you would send it later? Or, yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I can mention it now. Yeah, so I'm currently reading Master of Change.
Mm-hmm.
A book that I believe is important to read is Design Your Life. What's the authors? Give me a second. I wrote it down. Design Your Life by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans. The reason why I like it is they're taking the skills and methodology of design thinking that you must know very well
Mm-hmm.
into personal life, right? So the same concept, like how to design a prototype, how to get feedback, and then how to get a small sample of people around who can give you feedback, and then grow on and getting that loop of design thinking in the personal life. I think it's really awesome. There was another book, yeah, Radical Acceptance as well. I like it a lot. It's like helps you understand that the more you resist change, you also want to embrace failure. Like, life is tough, and joy is what you build, right? So accepting that some stuff are going to happen, and sometimes you're going to have bad feelings, and sometimes you're going to go through tough moments, and sometimes you're going to get injured, you're going to get sick, right? Accepting that is actually extremely important. So radical acceptance is a good one. Yeah, I think that I had the last one. Oh, those are great already. Like there's more
Mhm.
books. Like in terms of communication and sales, there is like Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss is an important one.
Thanks for sharing the book, of course, and all the podcasts and other sources. So that was great. As a last remark for today, so is there something that maybe we haven't talked today that you would like to say a few words, like some topic that is maybe important for you to remark as a small quote or something that
Mhm.
people should take into account into their life?
No, I say that I would say that's something we talked about, but I feel like people should really, because I'm really getting into it right now, and I told you I'm reading that book about change, but I really think it's the key. It's like people sometimes um, believe that they are working and they're studying to get to a certain job, and they believe that they will reach happiness by getting a certain situation, and they will stay like that, and they made it. It's going to be like that, but actually, um, I don't want to sound like someone who knows it all, and I don't want to sound like a grandpa, but like it's about the only constant we have is change. Like we need to be able to adapt. We need to be excited by changes. We need to accept that we are going to go through tough things. It's all about adaptability and moving forward, and that would helps people uh, put effort into becoming better instead of running away when they are going through tough time, basically. So I think that's an important thing. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any something like daily practice about how to kind of accept that, or yeah, do you have anything that helps you in that process, or that you can
Well,
comment now? Or?
I listen to how I feel about something, right? So, and I don't reject that, and I don't take quick decisions. I like trying to understand what's happening. I feel a bit stressed or frustrated about this situation. Well, what does it mean? What's behind that? Like, what are the things that I can do to make it better? Like, like should I invest more time into this or not? Like, so just like self awareness, listening to our own emotions, and try to spend some time with ourselves. Like some meditation practice is always a good one, and yeah, listen to it and see what you can do from it. I would say it's a daily thing. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So yeah, as a last point for now. So thanks for first, of course, sharing that information of change as important stuff. And yeah, how can people reach you out if they wanna continue this discussion outside of the podcast?
On my LinkedIn, I think is the best. It's the best place. So they can find me on LinkedIn, Mathias Durand. They will find me, and I would be happy to talk to anyone who wants to share stories or ask questions or whatever. I would love to. I love meeting new people and listening to new people's stories and see if there is any connection or anything I can do to help. So feel free to reach out. It would be a pleasure for me, for sure.
Okay. So thank you very much, Matthias, again for your time today. It was a pleasure to talk, and all the best in your coaching and public speaking training.
Mhm.
And yeah, we keep talking.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Ricardo. It was really fun. I loved it. Had a lot of fun.
So see you around.
See you around. Ciao.
Ciao.